Evening, guys. This is Wakile. This is my YouTube platform, and this is a platform where I would like to just share on my thoughts around matters, sports matters, general news around the world, particularly up in South Africa. I want to especially talk about Eastern Cape stories. There are a lot of people that don't get heard. Kabeteta. I'm one of those people. I hope to grow the platform. Actually, don't hope. I'm determined to grow the platform. I'm smiling, Goku, but I'm a killer, man. Listen, I'm telling you, I am excited because it's our cool platform and I'm going to do great things, man. I am going to do amazing things. But yeah, today I promised in an earlier short clip on YouTube to talk about the injury cloud around the Springbok captain, Siamtanda Kolisi. So let's dive into that. So why this topic? Wakila, why this topic? Well, a friend of mine, former player themselves, currently involved in the sport of rugby in the Eastern Cape, nationally as well. So they came to me and asked, "Listen, man, since the injury, a lot of people seem to be talking more about what the Springboks are going to be missing with Osia Kolisi, but can we talk about what the Springboks are not going to miss on the positive end in terms of Osia Kolisi, how they may be getting more from someone else?" And I thought, wow, that is a loaded topic, because it's true. Osia Kolisi is arguably the most beloved athlete in the country right now. He is arguably the most marketable and recognizable athlete in this country right now. And if you ask anyone around the world at this point in time, anyone who knows anything about South Africa or South African sport, to name one person who's an athlete in this country, and I think I would put my head on the block and assume that they would probably talk about Osia Kolisi, because he is right now sitting on the throne, man. Listen, he is the first Springbok, the black Springbok captain ever, and not just a run-of-the-mill captain. He went on to lead the Boks to the Webb Ellis Trophy. And this is what I want to talk about around Osia Kolisi, because I'll be very honest, I was one of the people who came out and spoke for Osia Kolisi during that time, despite the fact that I'm not a Springbok fan. We will talk about that another time, but no, I'm not a Springbok fan, but I am a Osia Kolisi fan, in the sense that Osia Kolisi, obviously I'm black, and I believe that he managed to pull off something that was incredible, in the sense he brought a lot of people together within the black communities. Even if you do not watch rugby, even if you do not follow rugby, even if you do not like the sport and you're associated with the whites, you would know that that was an incredible moment when he lifted the trophy, when he brought this country together, even temporarily, because there's always bad apples, there's always people pulling in an opposite direction. But that was a moment to celebrate, whether or not you were a fan of the Springboks, whether or not you were hoping that they win. On the sporting front, obviously a win for South Africa is a win for everyone on this beautiful soil, in this beautiful country. But then, yeah, as a fellow Xhosa-speaking gentleman, I'm proud of Osia Kolisi in that regard as well. And I'm one of the people who are humbled by his humility, by his consistency as a professional, because he has maintained his aura, he has maintained his poise, he has maintained his value as a marketable asset. So for that, I say big up to Osia Kolisi, and thank you to Osia Kolisi for continuing to inspire. Because remember now, youth, and I say Mkhumbulu 94, 1994, 27th of April, voted in our first black president in this country, Mr. Nelson Mandela, the late President Nelson Mandela. So youth Ayazlondo, all the youth knows is what is being said around the country in the political space, where Mandela was a sellout, Mandela was this. We've got social media where there's information. People are questioning the legitimacy of the Nelson Mandela immortality claim. The kind of talk where his legacy is immortal, but that's a story for another day. But Osia Kolisi is here now. He's in his prime, at the height of his powers. And those powers were seemingly dimmed during the week where the Sharks played Munster, when he was just, his match was cut short, and there was a collective wince, groan, because you kind of thought, Ganene Osia Kolisi was one of those injury-prone athletes where if you went down, you just knew that it's probably for some time. And building up to the World Cup, remember now, Osia Kolisi's leadership was also in question, because the thought was, Urasi Erasmus managed to just get the buy-in of the nation building up to the World Cup as a short notice appointment after Alistair Coetzee. And maybe he knew that he captain zakhe nangu-Eben Etzebeth and Dwayne Vermeulen, maybe Andre Pollard, and Usia Kolisi was just the poster child of, the black dream regarding the Springboks, because we'd had loose forwards who were black in the Springbok team before. We, particularly Soli Kibilika, the late Soli Kibilika. So we knew that these guys were coming and going. They never stayed put in the Springbok system for quite a while. And at that point, I think Usia might have been on 30 caps, if not 35. I stand corrected. But I think he was run about that because I think he's been captain now for quite a while. He's on 75 caps in Goku. So he might have been captain of the Springboks for 40 caps, for 40 times. So that's quite an achievement. That's a lot. It's right up there with probably people who've captained their countries, the most times. I know that there's been people who have captained their countries for a ridiculous amount of time. Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, Usia Kolisi has that status in Goku, even as a, globally, not just in South Africa, because at the end of the day, he warrants his selection. Once upon a time, yes, I was one of the people who thought, Usia Kolisi, does it justify his selection? Because his claim to fame was speed. Usia Kolisi was never the biggest loose forward. He came into the Springbok system in 2013 as a tearaway being, your short, stocky flanker who can tackle hard and fetch. He was not he didn't have too many turnovers, but you knew as stocky as he was super strong, was freakishly strong. He could take down almost anyone. Western Province having made his debut for Western Province 2 years prior. So he came into the Springbok system fairly quickly. And he was worth his weight, man. He was worth his weight because he came into the system, made his debut in 2013, Mbombela versus Scotland. And anyone who remembers that game, especially for that emotional story regarding his grandmother and father having bought tickets for his family to go watch him, and he came on very early in that game due to injury, and he put on a defensive clinic. He threw his body out there and he got man of the match in that game. And then he was, his selections were sporadic. He was in, he was out, he was in, he was out. He was a part of that 2015 squad where there was controversy around, racial issues in and around the camp. There were reports of, players of color coming out and claiming that Uhenyeke Meya and co, they were kind of maligning and marginalizing some of the players of color. And so that World Cup was a disaster on its own. Yeah, the Springboks did well to recover from the opening game where they lost surprisingly versus Japan. And they went on to be eliminated from that World Cup by the All Blacks, who defended the World Cup they had won in 2011. And so 4 years later, 2019, here's Usia Kolisi now. The story has gone full circle. He's now the captain of the Springbok team. It's a much changed Springbok team. The players of color, not just Ngokama Kalati, being counted as, fully black players. It is now Olukanyu being stars in the team. Makazole Mapimpi being a star. Another star we could have had in the team being Ulendwana Lena, Ugyanji, Apiwa Gyanji. His name escaped me just now, excuse me. But unfortunately, he was banned from all rugby activities because of a failed drug test or failed drug test where banned substances were found in his body. We hope Apiwa Gyanji makes a return before the sport passes him by. He is a fantastic talent. But anyway, back to the Usia Kolisi topic. Usia Kolisi even then got a lot of criticism because he was injured building up to that World Cup, and there was an injury cloud on him at the beginning of that World Cup and during the World Cup. If you remember, he was most famous here back home for being the captain that kept on getting subbed early. If you can remember, he was the captain that kept on getting subbed early, and you had to wonder, what was his on-field value then? I know that the Springboks had a lot of leaders, but what was the on-field value? There was a whole Langebaan issue around Eben Etzebeth and the colored, I don't want to say community, but there was an incident around Eben Etzebeth and a couple of colored people where the word excuse me for the pronunciation if it's off, but that word was bandied about, and it was alleged that That was a word even Etzebeth had used to describe the colored people. And that case didn't really go anywhere. There was no proof. There was nothing to it. But it was a story around the Springbok camp, and it was a cloud around a team that has faced, this kind of thing many times before. Many times before. 2003 World Cup, you remember the Quinton David issue with the racism between him and Ugia Cronje. And if you remember, then those two guys were excused from the Springbok camp, and they did not go to the 2003 World Cup in Australia. And so this is a team historically that has always had this issue. And it was surprising to me that Kolisi was kept away from the story. He was kept away from actually commenting on these issues, even just to come out and say, everything is fine, everything is perfect, we are a team, we are together, we are behind Eben Etzebeth, or we are behind the team up until this thing is either behind us or otherwise we face it after the World Cup. But as long as we're here, we're going to just play. Then there was the issue of the bomb squad and them, turning their backs or like just shooing Umapimpi away from their huddle following a game. And the explanation was that no, they are their own team. They just choose to kind of do their own thing. They've got a tradition, and so it was not. Umapimpi was an isolated issue on its own. There was nothing to it. There was nothing to talk about around that. There was no racism around. It was a bad look. If anyone saw the video, it was a bad look. Once again, Kolisi was kind of kept away from that. And as captain, he didn't really comment on that. And I found it strange. Umapimpi had to kind of shoot his own Facebook video or social media video to kind of explain the issue in his native language, in his native tongue. And I thought, man, like Kolisi, what is happening, But in any case, the Springboks overcame all of those things, overcame a very slow start to the World Cup, having lost the opening game to New Zealand, their second consecutive opening World Cup opening match losses at World Cups 2015 Japan, 2019 the All Blacks, and everyone thought maybe they'll beat the All Blacks in the final. It'll be that. And it will be another fun fest, rugby festival, All Blacks versus Springboks. And we thought that would be a thing. But in any case, the spotlight was on Kolisi and the fact that he was being kept away from public relations duties regarding issues in and around the Springbok camp. And I thought to myself, if this was John Smith, man, he probably would have taken the bull by the horns and been allowed to talk to the world media around the unity within the team, whether or not these issues were affecting the team or not. And so, but in any case, thankfully, they came together. They played good rugby towards the end of the World Cup, and they demolished England to win the World Cup. And then the problem started again. COVID aside, the following year, there was still some bad apples, a lot of people coming out and saying Kolisi was not their captain. There was a Black Lives Matter issue where Sia came out and talked about his own experiences during his rugby career, throughout his rugby career, the Afrikaans speaking issues around rugby camps, Springbok camps, Western Province or Stormers camps or whatsoever, and his history as a poor, Xhosa speaking lad from Ezwide, having to come into these strange environments and very few people actually taking note and taking him under their wing. And a lot of people, especially from our white counterparts, they did not like this. And Kolisi was under a lot of, not really under a lot of pressure. I don't think he felt it, but a lot of people came out and started, chastising Kolisi for those comments, because Ulungingidi on the cricket front had already come out and spoken against some of the issues that he had faced as a black cricketer. And so once again, his leadership was tested. But then, obviously, he eviscerated those doubts with a victory over the British and Irish Lions, which for me was a turning point for Kolisi, the player, because there was absolutely, during that tournament and afterwards, or I would say mini tournament, because it was a series, there was absolutely no doubt as to who was the best bet to be number 6 for Springboks. Now, they don't have a traditional open side flanker with Springbok camp, so let's not pretend that team, Kolisi doesn't fit the mold of a fetcher. Skalkberger wasn't really a fetcher in the sense he could go out and play over the ball and get influence turnovers. But then Kolisi was absolutely brilliant in that British and Irish Lions series, and you saw his captaincy. You sat at home and you felt his captaincy, especially a Springbok team that had not had a proper camp due to limitations around movement, limitations around activities due to lockdowns, in South Africa, the COVID related lockdowns. And this was a team that could not do much. They had no real preparation. They had no real warm-ups. They had no real international season the year prior, which was 2020. And in 2021, a British and Irish Lions team comprising of players who had reasonable preparation. They'd played for their respective countries the year prior, and they'd had a lot of, practice and preparation to the point where there were some injuries as well. So they came to South Africa and they were promising, they were flexing their muscles a lot. They kind of blew all the franchises one side, and they had a frightening winger, Duarte van der Merwe. And so when it came to the business end of things, the Springboks lost the opening game, and we thought, oh, shucks. But then afterwards, through to their World Cup form, 2 years prior, they picked up their performances, and they in an empty stadium, by the way, and they won the series. They won the second match, they won the third match, and that was that. And they established themselves as possible World Cup favorites, because this is a team that had been together. Yeah, it's an aging team, Ngoku, but I want to talk about now Usia, the injured Springbok captain, because now I want to take it forward to this year, fast forward to 2023. Usia has a knee injury. He's gone under the knife. He's had surgery. Usia Kolisi is a doubt for the World Cup. I know his wife came out and she's quite optimistic about he can rehab and give himself a chance to be out there and be a possibility for a selection for the World Cup as the captain once again. Now, all the Springbok players take a lot of wear and tear because of the style of play of the Springboks, but man, the speed with which a lot of people came out and said they were worthy replacements. Now I know this is a good thing for the Springboks, but it's quite strange in the sense, Ndogba, it was so quick, because now it speaks to the value of Usia Kolisi. Now I know the Springbok system is more, they are a machine. So the 15 players are the singular organism that makes things work. That's Rassi's way. That's Jacques Ninaber's way. It's not like there's not really a lot of individual brilliance where one guy can either take you there or bring you back. I know Lukanyo is like one of those World Player of the Year candidates for the last 2.5 years in Woku. But I'm talking about in the sense, but even Lukanyo himself, if he's absent, Jesse Kriel will probably have one bad game, and then after that he'll just mesh into the way the Springboks do things. There'll be a very tight defensive wall, and then there'll be a very good attacking unit when it counts the most. I know a lot of people put them down for a lot of the wins, during the seasons where it doesn't count for a lot. But then during these World Cup years, they can just they can put people out there, and they can do it. It's almost like the semi-final. It's just a formality, which is a lottery when you get there, by the way. It's almost like a penalty shootout in soccer. But anyway, man, it shocked me how quickly people were like, Deon Fourie is ready, Marco van Staden's ready, Marcel Coetzee should be called up. And I thought, wow, the rugby conversation is quite interesting, because to me, if this was Richie McCaw with All Blacks, which is a different setup, by the way, because their captains have always been one of the most talented individual on the team, except for now, which is Sam Cane, in my opinion, is probably the third best open side flanker in New Zealand, and way behind, as it pertains to the rest of the world. In fact, one of the best open side flankers in New Zealand is the number 8, Sevilla, but that's a story for another day. But then, yeah, if this was a Richie McCaw, the great Richie McCaw, or Kieran Reid, even the old Kieran Reid in 2019, it would have been so different. It would have been so different, the conversation, because it would have taken so much time for people to kind of get up and say, who's next? Who's next? And it speaks a lot about Usia Kolisi, the player. Has he earned the people's respect? I know I've got a few friends who come out and say, yeah, look, he has. To me, in recent times, he has. He is a unanimous choice as a starter, with or without the armband. He is a unanimous choice as a starter for the Springboks, because he has become world class. He's right up there in Wokukum. But it was an interesting topic of conversation that my friend brought up, because they were really concerned that people are either scared or point blank refuse to criticize Osia, maybe because he's a darling of our sports in South Africa. He's a black captain in a white predominantly in a previously white dominated sport. He still represents a lot of what's good about our country. He still represents unity. He's still a global icon as far as our exporting of athletes is concerned. So it's an interesting topic. I don't think I've covered enough, but I just wanted to point out that we need to put some respect on his name at this point in time. I'm not one of those people who believe he's one of the best in the world yet. I know he's probably top 5 in that position if we're counting open side flankers. Is at the bottom of the food chain in terms of turnovers, influence, but in terms of overall play and influence on the park, he's top 5 to me. He's top 5 as an open side flank. I still regard Adi Sevier as an open side flank, by the way. So when it comes to the Van der Vliers, Hoopers, Adi Seviers, Usia Kolisi is up there, maybe alongside with Tom Curry, if not behind Tom Curry. But yeah, top 5 to me, in my honest opinion. He's right up there. So I think the Springboks will miss him if he's not there. It will be a devastating blow. A leader that's absent, an experienced player that's absent, someone with 75 caps at this point. If he is absent for the rest of the season, it's a massive blow for the Springboks on that front, because leadership is not something you just blink and you find, when you open your eyes again. So I think it'll be a massive blow, a massive miss, especially now with Eben Etzebeth. We don't know what he's going to come back looking like when he recovers from his shoulder injury as well, and when that happens in any case. So let's see what happens, and let's talk more about rugby as the weeks pass and as the season unfolds. So I will leave it right there. You can comment if you like. You can tell me I was talking rubbish or I made a good point, but it's up to you. I just wanted to bring to light the topic and see where it takes us. So let's see how. Good luck to Usia Kolisi on his recovery, by the way. We respect him. I know that I like him a lot. He's just one of the most consistent professionals, that we need in this country, especially as a black role model. So good luck to him. Good luck to his family. And I just hope to see him out there doing what he loves. Whether it's this year or beyond, I just hope to see him being happy and doing what he loves and being healthy and, just wanting to look after himself. So in any case, let's talk more about this. Let's talk more about rugby in general. It's a Rugby World Cup year, guys. We're too quiet this year. So let's make it happen. Sure.